Gentlemen, welcome to our special call, City Council Chambers, City of Homestead, 790 Homestead Boulevard. It is now 6:05 in the evening. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Faircloth McCormick.
Here.
Councilman Maldonado.
Here.
Councilman Shelley.
Here.
Councilwoman Woolman, absent. Councilman Williams. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Here.
Mayor Bateman.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Order of business, Mr. City Manager, you want to take off 645 New City Hall
Hang on
discussion?
1 second. Him and the attorney are still on their way in.
Hello, I didn't even look up. All right, let's move. Who's in favor of the city attorney? All in favor? Aye. Notice I didn't say city manager, I said city attorney.
Ooh, just something else.
Richard Weiss, the floor is yours. We've already called the roll, and the next item on the agenda is you. Don't be late. It's an important date.
This is discussion about the new city hall.
Yeah, it just said city attorney, order of the business, car number 645, New City Hall, Richard Weiss.
Should be city manager.
Okay, city manager. You're on.
Mayor, the last meeting, the council authorized, actually asked to schedule a meeting to discuss the next step in building in the city hall. And one of the items, well, actually they asked for two things. The first one was to invite the architects of the 2009 give a little history on that design, go through the design, and then from there offer an opportunity for anybody else that had any other ideas for the project to have an opportunity to speak. So we've ordered it with the architects that are here to give the presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we ready?
Well,
Thank you very much, Mayor Bateman, Vice Mayor Burgess, Councilwoman, Councilman, Mr. Manager. We're indeed delighted to be back before you after a 3-year hiatus. I just wanted to remind you, I went back to my records, and it was on September 30th of 2009 that we were scheduled to award the bids. As you might recall, some of you might recall, the project was bid, and we had some 26 different bids, and it was under the budget, and we were ready to go, and then we all know what happened. I just want to run you through the slides of the process. I won't take you through the whole, I'll take you through an abbreviated process. But it started with a site analysis. We had looked at 3 sites. This is the historic downtown Homestead. You see in purple the bus lane, which at that time was a project, but it eventually got implemented. And you see at the top of the screen in blue the community college, which we designed years ago. And in red, along Chrome, is the retail area. And in green, in blue, are the civic buildings. This is a little close-up of the Chrome Avenue plan. And again, to remind you, the red is the retail, the blue are the civic buildings, and the green is the open space. And you can see section through Chrome Avenue prior to while we were doing the community college, there was an improvement of the Chrome Avenue section. And this is the way it looked back in 2009. So there is already some investment, considerable investment downtown. What we looked at were at that time, some comparable streets that were going through the middle of town, like Sunset Drive goes through South Miami, and the activity that's possible right on the sidewalk. Since then, also, Miracle Mile in Coral Gables has allowed restaurants, and the character of the street has changed from a lot of bridal shops to a lot of activity. Again, Lincoln Road, you've all been there. It's a little bit different because it's a closed mall, but the activator seems to be the restaurants. Again, going back to the Losner Park section, there was a CRA project that contemplated building around it and behind it. And we had looked at several models for that, and one was live-work unit, which is perfect for these sites because you can have a retail activity on the ground level and residences above, and that happens also, by the way, in South Miami. Now, part of your investment already is the band shell at Losner Park and some of the improvements there, with a little bit of activity in the area that I mentioned that was a CRA project. We were envisioning a little bit heavier density there so that it could become an entertainment, maybe not of the scale of Coco Walk, but at least with all the different mixes that attracted people there. There's one like this in Fort Lauderdale. Again, scales are different, but then we went back and looked at the connection with the bus lane, and particularly how to get people to Chrome and back and forth to Chrome, which was through 2nd Street. And we took a look at what might be, with a little bit of improvement, the section through 2nd Street, which would be kind of an entrance to the downtown and also to the City Hall proper, and a connection from Chrome to Washington Avenue. This is the way it looks, I think, still today. And again, there's a little bit of room for improvement if we were just to be able to put in some of those amenities. So, and this is a model for that, which is Clematis Street in West Palm Beach, for those of you who have been up there. These are a couple more. Then we took a look at the Washington Avenue plan, and one of the things that is most attractive about Washington Avenue is its section. As you can see, there are, can't reach with the pointer there, but I guess the beam doesn't reach, but there is an arcade. It's an arcaded street filled with little businesses, and it's a divided street, and it has, again, another city investment in putting in the oak trees that have now matured. What we were proposing on the other side, on the left side of your screen, is to have an arcade detached from City Hall, but able to be programmed as the events of the month take place. For example, it would be a good shelter for flower shows, for produce markets, for reviews of different parades. So it's something that Coral Gables also has next to their City Hall. But in the case of Washington Avenue, it helps us reinforce the arcade activity on the other side of the street. So this is the section through the street. And this is the arcade that I was talking about, and I was delighted to see, where was it in, I think it was Business Monday or Sunday's Neighbors or something, a real big piece on this, and it highlighted the reactivation of this area. Now, Civic Court, at the time that we were here, there was a proposal to have kind of a bypass bus route there, and we're kind of happy that that has been abandoned. But what you can see here is the relationship of the City Hall to the entrance from Commerce Park, let's say, and across the busway. And this is what it looks like now. In a little while, I'm going to show you what that intersection could look like. And again, to try to draw a parallel, this is not unlike the section of the City Hall in Coral Gables, which kind of sticks out in a fork-type road situation, and it becomes kind of a highlight for the entrance from Coral Way and to Coral Way. So now to the design of the City Hall proper, this dark blue is your site. It's what was originally, when we studied it, called the Borges site, a market that used to be there. The site was cleared, as you know, fenced. It's been checked for contamination. The borings for structural integrity have been completed, so the site is construction ready, if you will. We had planned for the parking for City Hall to be parallel to the busway, and that's the way the parking exists on the other side of Civic Court with the community college, which we talked about earlier, that we designed. So this is the earlier plan where we were in schematics of City Hall, and you see, and we'll repeat this over and over, but it's a tripartite plan. The circle area is the council chambers, the room that would replace this room. And through it, you see there's a breezeway or a grand hall. It's air-conditioned, but it allows people to enter from, again, Washington Avenue or from the busway, and basically make a choice to go to one side or the other, depending on whether they're going to the council chambers or the office building. That's a big part of the project. This is just, again, a colored version of that, which shows furniture. But you see the hemicycle of the council chambers, the breezeway going through. It's kind of the neck of the building, and then the office portion. The second floor is only the office building. You see it's a two-story space, both the grand hall and the council chambers, a little bit bigger than this one, but appropriately needs to be higher than a typical office floor. But in the office side, the most important part about this floor, the second floor, is that it's the middle of the middle. In other words, it's a three-story building, so the second floor is the middle. And also the big square that you see is the middle of the office building, which has been hardened to house an emergency operations center, which is set up, as the name indicates, for emergencies, but can be used throughout the year because it's a flexible space. It does have what they call accessible flooring, so that you can reconfigure the wiring and everything. But it's a feature of the building, the fact that the core, the middle of the middle, the center of the center is hardened. There's also a balcony that looks out upon the plaza on the other side. We'll show you in the renderings a little bit later. And then the third floor is pretty much divided between the mayor and the council members and the vice mayor at the other end. And then on the other side of the building, you have the city manager and the staff. So it's basically an administrative floor reflecting the structure of the government between the elected officials and the executive appointed authorities, if you will. Here's a section, just so you begin to see, it's very schematic, but you can see the, can't make this work, but anyway, you can see that in the blue is the center of the breezeway. You can see the dome effect over the council chambers. And on the office building, you can see the center of the center being the EOC, and the space that's, call it in cream, is the balcony to the plaza below. This is the elevation. It's a flat view of that. Again, the council chambers to the right, the breezeway in the center, and then the office building in the left. This is a transverse section. So here you see again the three-decker with the middle floor having in the center the EOC. And that's the south elevation, and the balcony is on the second floor overlooking the plaza. That's the rendering of that side of the building, faces Washington Avenue, with a balcony. This is the interior rendering of the grand hall. And again, depending on which side you come in, you turn one way to reach the council chambers, or you turn the opposite way to enter the office building. And this is a section through the council chambers. It has a raked floor for easy sight, and it has a rear projection and state-of-the-art type communication, so you'd have the ability to see this presentation that I'm showing you today in a much better scale. And again, this is the view from Civic Court, so you can see that as you come in from the Civic Court across the busway, you'll have this as the image of the city as soon as you enter and cross the tracks. Anyway, that's it. If you have any questions, I see Councilwoman Waldman is here. She remembers this, I'm sure. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, council. To the mayor, any questions? Sure, Ms. Wong.
How are you? Nothing.
I'm good, thank you. The balcony, I couldn't remember that. That's off the, where's the balcony?
Okay.
I know you said second floor, but...
Yeah, it's the second floor facing the plaza that's on Washington Avenue.
Okay.
So, at one time we had a fountain there. There was some concern over the fountain, but it's a public space where people can congregate. And you have the ability on special occasions, if you want, to have a council there for formal civic functions. Excuse me? Well, I don't mean to be cute, but we like to think we design buildings that have no backs.
Okay.
The forefronts. I mean it, and in this location particularly, that's fairly important.
I know we haven't seen everything, but I know when we were doing this, I had asked if maybe there could be some bike racks outside.
Absolutely, they're in the project.
Okay.
In the project
I remember
that was
asking for that, so people could ride their bikes.
Exactly, right. It's part of, I failed to mention, thank you for bringing it up. It's designed to lead certification standards, and that's one of the features that gives us the extra points. Yeah, it's LEED silver.
That was a big part of the planning,
Absolutely.
was to make sure that it was environmentally...
Right. No, it's next to mass transit, right?
Right.
Way. It is in the center of the city. It has the bike racks. I mean, there's a number of points, as you know, that come just from the site before you get to the inside of the building.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Further questions? Are there any questions from the audience? Hearing none, seeing none, okay. Any final questions from council?
I have one question. When can we start?
Mayor, the next presenter.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Michelle. Go ahead, Michelle. Welcome.
Hello, Michelle Pedersen at 29430 Southwest 172 Avenue, Homestead 33030. My question is, how long will it take to complete that project?
Okay, as I mentioned, the site is ready and the plans are ready and have been approved. So the question is whether you want to put them out to bid again or whether you want to go back to the original bidders and see if they will honor their quote from 3 years ago. But the construction term is 18 months. That's what we think.
No, go ahead, Mr. President. The floor is yours. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. My name is Wayne Rosen with Shores Development, and with me is my partner, Taylor Smith. And we were ready to do a presentation on putting a package together to build and lease back the City Hall using Raul Rodriguez's plans and do a package for the existing City Hall. But through some discussions with the city manager and the city attorney today, we were told that we think that the proper I don't know if the word's proper, but that an RFP would have to be used in order to expedite the process. So we're not sure exactly, what we need to do at this point, or whether we should discuss whether or not the RFP package is something that the council wants to do after listening to the next proposal. I think we'll need some guidance.
Well, let's ask the city attorney now. Mr. City Attorney.
Right?
Right, we've had a number of conversations with Mr. Rosen and his partner today in terms of if the council wanted his plan as an option, how could we do that properly? And we determined that the right way to do that would be through an RFP process. And actually, I think we went through the different statutes, went through the different options, and that's the right way. So if you're interested in the proposal that they have, the right way to do that would be some sort of a RFP, request for proposals process, and that's that would be the proper procedure to that.
Mr. Burgess.
Would we be able, how quickly would something like that be able to turn around by our staff to get it out and received back to us for information if that was the route that we chose to take?
Well, part of it would be dependent on what kind of direction we get on what is it that you want to build. So is it, if you say the architect presented a plan that we like and we want to build exactly what's there with 100% construction documents, then that would be typically an invitation to bid, assuming you're interested in the process whereby, you're looking for the lowest price. And then, of course, a variation of that is a construction manager at risk process where you say, I like what he wants, that we want to build, what's the 100% construction documents, but we want a fixed price, a guaranteed maximum price, so that there's no cost overruns, there's no over budget. In that case, then typically your price is higher because the contractor will factor in an additional cost to cover his risk. In this particular case, if it's an RFP, the question then would be, are you asking for proposals for a very specific construction project, i.e., we like what the contractor is offering, but we want to see different variations in the way that would be done? Or do you want a general RFP which says, we have this plot of land, we need a city hall, come back to us with general ideas, proposals for what you would build and how you would build it. And so that's really, and so for us as staff, what we need is, the first decision would be, what is it that you're trying to accomplish here? And then from there, we can spin off the options that are available to you.
Thank you. Mr. Shelley.
Thank you, Mayor. You answered some of my questions, but the way I kind of see tonight is that we have really possibly two decisions to make, and one is what plan, and I know there's at least two plans here tonight, maybe there's more, so what plan are we going with, and then once we decide on that plan, then what process are we going about to build that plan? And so I guess that would be where the bid process would come in. Now is that, even though we haven't seen all the plans yet, I mean, discussion of the bid process may be a little premature, I guess, at this point, but if we went, what direction would you need, I guess, as staff? I mean, do you give you specific, I know you say you need direction, specific direction is say we want this plan and just put it out, I guess, in piecemeal, or?
Question
very technical, I guess.
Question number one for us would be, do you want to build the 2009 plan as is, as per the 100% construction drawings that you have? And that would, or do you want something different?
And the process?
If it's something different, do you have an idea of what that difference means or not? Because if you had, let's say, well, we want, you have a specific idea in mind, meaning you see one of these presentations tonight and say, well, I really like that concept, so we'd like an RFP that addresses specifically that concept versus something else. Or you say, well, we'd really like to see a whole lot of people come in and compete and do this. So that's really the gamut. So decision number one is, do you want the 2009 plans as is? And if that's yes, then the next question is on process.
Okay, when you say, okay, so we say we go that direction, And then the process that you give it for bid purposes, then what would be the time frame? Because that'd be the next consideration for me is, depending on where we go with things, if we do a bid, then if we just say we want the plan, if we choose a plan and say build that plan specifically, there's one time frame, I assume. And then
We're assuming 60 days roughly.
I would say 90 days would be a good
versus
number.
say something that's maybe being proposed here, which would be a more of a purchase financing, and that to be its own bid process to propose at that, or would they be going on simultaneously?
Well, because we have another proposer here, I'm trying to be as broad and
No.
general as possible. Let's assume the proposal is for a project. For example, you decide you want to do an RFP process where you want to allow anybody to come in with any idea that meets certain criteria. You want a city hall, give us an idea. That process obviously is longer in that the RFP process, you'll have proposals in front of you within a fairly reasonable time, 60 to 90 days. But where the difference in time would be, what you'll have in 90 days with the first option, if it's a formal bidding process, you'll have contractors to pick, and then from there you'll let out a contract. As opposed to in the RFP process, you'll see proposals for the first time, and then assuming you pick something, then obviously whichever one would have to be designed.
And then that would be RFP for as far as the details of it, maybe.
Depending on which route you go.
Okay. Well, I guess for that, the remainder of that discussion, I'll wait till after we have our last presentation, and then once we make some decisions, we have more latitude. So.
Any further questions from council?
Could I ask one quick question to the architects? How long does it take to design something like that? Just, to come up with the concept and all of that stuff?
Well, this one took a year.
1 year?
Right. And $1 million.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
no problem.
Can we amplify just a little bit more of our, is that okay?
Go ahead.
Taylor Smith and Lane's partner. Our kind of approach to this is our presentation to you tonight. I'd like to say that we're prepared to take your $1 million investment and turn it around into a solution in 30 to 45 days with a price and a process this is kind of our secret recipe that we'll present in writing in response at your direction to a request for a proposal. But we'll take the existing plan and deliver it back at a cost savings because we're in a historic low market right now that could be lost in the next year. We believe will be lost in the next year with supply costs going up. Historic low interest rates, that's why we're offering the finance option to you, sir. Council is an option to take advantage of historic low financing opportunities, which President Obama, for various reasons, is eliminating some of the deductions for municipal bonds by wealthy families. What that does is good or bad, political, neutral. However, it'll raise the cost of muni borrowing next year. So municipalities to invest in infrastructure next year, depending on the outcome of the election, could be significantly higher. Rates will be higher. So we kind of are ready and poised to jump in and give you action now. And the other nice thing about our solution, Mayor, is that we're going to use local contractors and subcontractors and small trades here. We're going to train them. We have an idea and a proven track record of training, deploying, and employing local trades in Homestead. So what you'll see is kind of out of the site will arise this municipal solution, a fantastic 200-year building for you to move into, but you'll build it with Homestead. And that's why Shores Development is a local investor. And the kind of the last part of our secret soup is we think it's fun. We have a proven track record of redeveloping land, and we actually have a way to pay for the new City Hall using the old City Hall site, as well as the CRA. This is all part of what we want to present to you in a posture, though, that if you like it, you could engage us to work with you as a partner to deliver it. In speaking with your council today, wisely, he said, whatever you put out today is public record, common knowledge, and available for anyone. So it's kind of like our trade craft. We'd like to give it to you in 30 days. We can give you a full proposal. Just say tonight, if you give direction, hey, let's see what they got. We're back. We welcome 20, 30, 50 firms. The best solution for you as a community is what we want. We're just ready. We've spent a lot of time getting ready because we're local, and we believe that this is a great opportunity for the city. So that's kind of we believe the plan you've invested, the $1 million, is a fantastic municipal solution. It's actually more cost-effective today than it was in 2009 because of historic low construction costs. We have an anomaly of interest rates that allow us to do this. And then the term of the lease back to you can be the other part of our solution is flexibility and transparency. We will show you everything. You will see everything everybody makes. It's a fixed fee proposal is our solution, and you can take it out with your own bonds at any time. So it's fully transparent and fully flexible. It's kind of a mouthful to lay out, but I wanted to say that verbally so you know where we're coming from if you were to take that direction with just a 30-day RFP. And if you want to make it limited to the design, we'll do that. That's how we'll respond. If you want to open it up to anybody's design, we know we can beat the price and timeline because it's fully designed. And we know how much effort went in the committees that worked so hard to solve your functional space needs in 2009. They spent a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, as well as community money, coming up with a solution. So we kind of adopted that and thought, well, that should still work. We can tweak it, of course, if that's your desire. So that's my add-on to Mr. Rosen's intro for where we are. You have at least one team ready to respond.
Well, you've piqued my interest because it sounds to me like, without putting words into your mouth, that you're going to allow us to keep the taxpayers' money in the bank.
Yes, sir.
That's the most important thing to me, I can tell you right now. To build this city hall, need it or not, in an economy like this, is pretty risky.
Yes, sir.
And we're taking your money, taxpayers' money, and we're spending $25 or $30 million.
Yes, sir.
At a very, very, very tough time. Toughest time in my lifetime, economically. So if you come up with something, I would hold in abeyance an extra 5 minutes into the meeting if things seem like they're going to progress the other way to see what your solutions really are and what your proposal really is in the way of finance. That's very important to me and to the taxpayers.
Yes, sir.
The room may not be filled tonight, but I assure you, the community is grumbling, and it is. You have a few business people here tonight that definitely going to benefit from it, and I want them to benefit from it. But at the same time, I don't want the taxpayers to lose in a huge way. Thank you.
Well, yes, sir, and you're sitting on a unique opportunity right here. This piece of real estate, with the convergence of the market coming back, that's the only reason we think now's the time to strike. So, yes, I agree with you, Mayor, 100%. It's good. Without the synergy, it would be a much different, we would be speaking from a different point of view.
Well, thank you. Okay.
I'd just like to say, before, I understand what you're saying in the sense of they don't want to cut out the bag. They have something that sounds unique that they want to propose to us. So in lieu of that, what I'd like to see is that we just, after whoever has any questions, myself, just to make sure we're finishing all the presentations today before we start, making decisions or anything like that.
Thank you. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Thank you. Sorry.
Your proposal incorporates both. Are you prepared, if the council was to say just the city hall site for now, that's all we're comfortable in doing? Is that something you guys are comfortable in moving forward with at this time?
It's not our preference, but yes, we'd be willing to look at that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any final questions before the next presentation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Next, we have Homestead Village Center, LLC.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council and staff. My name is Robert Barnes, 221 North Chrome Avenue, Homestead, Florida. I think I'm going to go.
Thank you.
We have a little different viewpoint towards the project, but yet everything that's been said here tonight we agree with in a lot of ways. The first thing I'd like to do is introduce our teams so that you understand who we are. I'm Robert Barnes. I've established a firm in Homestead in 1984. I do work from Florida Keys in the Miami area. We provide architecture, engineering, and planning, urban design, sustainability consulting, construction management services, civic and government including historic preservation, residential, commercial, financial, hospitality, and office retail and entertainment clients in our past. Our firm has been honored and received numerous awards for the Key Largo Visitor Center in Key Largo, the Commercial Builders Grand Award for Marada Bay Beach Bar and Pierre's Restaurant down in Marada, Fabrics Association's Awards, Florida Historic Trust for the Old Town Hall and Homestead, an award for the Losner Park and Band Shell. Some of our projects that we've done, the one on, this is for Florida City Baptist Church. This is our building downtown Homestead, which I own. And this is the Carrie Meek Business Center that is the last phase that has not been built out. We also have Tom David. Tom is concentrated his law practice and brings in our development team expertise in the areas of real estate law, including land use, zoning, government relations law, including administrative and lobbying and nonprofit law. Mr. David has more than 20 years public and private resolving client matters before local, state, and federal governments. Mr. David worked as Chief of Staff of the Miami-Dade County Manager. His broad experiences also includes acting as Executive Director of the We Will Rebuild Foundation, which aided Homestead's recovery and Homestead Hurricane Andrew. Mr. David serves on the community and business organizations, including the Florida Atlantic Builders Association Legislative Committee, the Miami-Dade Public Site Selection Planning Construction Committee, Rural Neighborhoods, providing farm worker housing and Homestead Main Street. Michael Kesty is a chairman of the Government Relations Group, a lobbying business development company based in Miami. The organization specializes in assisting companies from various industries, municipalities, and nonprofits in pursuing and acquiring funding for expansion and new projects. Mr. Kesty has successfully lobbied for legislative changes to benefit his clients. He provides services to those in real estate development, retail, restaurants, construction, energy, office complexes, manufacturing, financial, municipalities, nonprofit, and entities. Mr. Kesty assisted Community Health in South Florida, obtaining $13.5 million. He founded his first America Health Corp program in Florida to benefit the South Miami-Dade and Homestead area. Mr. Kesty recently assisted Bargaintown and Redland Market Village in obtaining a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor and a special designation from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to enable retention expansions of hundreds of jobs in the Homestead area. Mr. Kesty has been active in the community, having served as Executive Director of the Community Health Foundation, Miami Beach Health Foundation, founder of the 9/11 Family Fund, and Assistant Governor of Rotary International's District of South Florida. Mr. Silver serves as a consultant on development property repositioning, the general strategy for real estate developers, brokers, and investors. Mr. Silver brings more than 30 years of experience serving as principal in various real estate ventures, as well as a representative and consultant for major developers in South Florida. Mr. Silver has been involved in some of the region's most notable projects and transactions. His recent signature development is the repositioning and entitlement of the Palmetto Bay Village Center, an 80-acre site fronting Biscayne Bay that was previously home to Burger King Corporation World Headquarters. He redeveloped and leased a 300,000 square foot office complex, secured entitlements for 400 residential units, hotel, and other uses. He has also various roles for both brokers and principals in significant land deals, including Midtown Miami, the Met Project, One Miami, the Ritz-Carlton Coconut Grove. Mr. Silver is also a partner in the law firm of Silver Garvett, PA. Mr. Silver previously served as Assistant Attorney General for the state of Florida. His involvement in civic organizations include the Board of Directors of Gay Heritage Trust and Shake a Lake Miami, past chair of the Deering Foundation, the state chairman of the Coconut Grove Business Improvement District Capital and Infrastructure Committee, and the instructor of Shake a Lake Miami. He is founder of the Sobe Festival of the Arts, Deering Seafood Festival, Artists in Residence programs, and a fundraising chairman for local nonprofits. He has been recognized with the South Miami-Dade Leadership Award for his civic involvement. This time I'd like him to come up and this is the Palmetto Bay Village Center. Good evening. We listened to the presentation regarding the existing City Hall, and we've spent really probably the last year and a half trying to really understand and get enmeshed in what is happening in the fabric of the downtown Homestead area and see how we can benefit that. As a part of the Coconut Grove Business Improvement District, we have engaged in a 3-year-long process of trying to redevelop the sidewalks, the streets, the interaction with the storefronts to create, some people call it new urbanism, I call it the old urbanism. It's trying to create the old town, the old historic feel, which you have on your Chrome Avenue area and which you're trying to recreate. I'm working with, as Executive Director of Metro One Properties. We're redeveloping many properties in the Wynwood Design Districts, areas that are old Miami and are trying to be reinvented into new uses. One of the problems that we see with the current design, we're taking a completely different approach. I would say it's a 180-degree turn from what I've seen in the earlier presentation, is we want to create something that interacts with the rest of the city and the downtown area. I think some of the challenges with the current design, and as an iconic structure, I think it's a beautiful structure. I think it's got beautiful looks. It doesn't have a back to it. It's got sides all around that are excellent design, but it's a single-use facility. It's not connected to the surrounding area. It only has a surface lot. There's no provision for garage parking. You've got to anticipate connections to the public transportation. You've got to provide garage parking that may also have a multi-purpose use for the rest of downtown. You've got to think ahead, because once you create the surface lot, the disruption, once you have a building there, you'll have to disrupt your parking. So you really have to think ahead on that. It creates a large underutilized property that removes much of the heart of the city from the tax rolls. That property will no longer be on the tax roll. There's no possibility of placing that property on the tax rolls, and when we get ahead a little bit on this, we'll explain how we hope to return a significant portion of this to the tax rolls of the city. The layout eliminates the possibility for incorporating future expansion and interconnection of the transit line and future civic and commercial properties, including the potential, if you ever wanted to add a police station on there. It doesn't truly incorporate, a second level, a connection directly where it might wind up becoming part of either a light rail station or even, continuations or enhancement to the busway. It does none of that. It creates a large passive green space, which, while it looks good to see a large green space, it's not an active green space. When you have a large open passive green space, it just becomes a place, essentially, to be blunt about it, for loitering. It doesn't create something that's activated that has, I looked at the building, I don't see a single storefront. I don't see anything other than a grand hallway that you walk into. I don't see anything that activates the street. When you look at the things like the Cocoa Walks or the other things that were put up there, or South Miami or Lincoln Road, those are things where you have a storefront and a sidewalk and a street, and you have all of that interact with this. This kind of turns its uses inside, where you have to go into the grand hallway in order to get to that, so it doesn't create any of that. And the present design also doesn't relate in any way to the feel of the historic downtown district. An important part of redevelopment, particularly when you're trying to redevelop a downtown, and we've done it in areas, I've worked on it in areas including Midtown Miami, where the Midtown Miami took a rail yard and has turned it into a small city. We worked on Wynwood, that's taken an industrial district and turned it into something that's extremely vibrant, and Coconut Grove that even is now turning the corner with somewhere upwards of $500 million of new development coming up this year. So what we are proposing will create retail, parking garage, city hall, and an opportunity, not at this point, but an opportunity for a police station, if you're going to go that route at some point in the future, that will be incorporated into an urban design setting that's not only activates the street, creates street life, but also is sensitive to its location in the historic district and relates to it in an important and meaningful way. I'm going to have Robert show you some of the prospective designs. This is very big picture. We're not getting into any of the finite detail of it, but I think this is the general design.
The site, as you've seen already, we have the site here, campus, you can see. These are the major local and regional access roads that go into the site, where this is the busway here and Flagler, US 1 out here, and these are all streets that need to be looked at and relate to the site as a whole. The historic district area right here, the campus area here, and the Pioneer Commerce Park. We have a busway that runs right through the middle of us and just cuts us in half, and we really need to look at how we can integrate the east and west side of the busway so that
You can walk from one side to the other, and you feel like both sides are the same town. We've been separated like this for so long, and it's like it's one of the major issues we need to work on. And this piece of property right here has that potential to do that. The area that we need to look at is how we integrate the site of these different areas, foot traffic, pedestrian interacting with retail stores. So our intention at the moment is we've got an major entryway here, we've got City Hall here, it backs up to the busway, and with a central located chamber room, conference right here, so that it can be seen from all areas. This would become retail, office, and parking, and these would become parking decks here to add to that nightlife where we could interact between the City Hall and the future police station and be able to use that same parking for retail and for entertainment. And the police station would back up to the City Hall and become connected through a bridge or some type of connection that would allow interacting, and it would become a place for a facility if we run into really big issues. We have another hurricane, it becomes a hardened facility, both of them, so that they can interact together. Site views, areas of which we need to be able to, the side of the buildings need to be able to relate and connect and bond the two sides of the city across. And then also that brings on the greenways. So the idea is to have a design with a central element to it, with retail on the streets on Washington Avenue to create that same, and build upon the retail activity and viability that's there now, and with parking garages and a centralized city council chambers and city hall. And just a little sketch of what we would.
What we're trying to do here is really what you now do is you create an active green space. And we've taken, this process has not been, we've asked for a lot of input from the community, from council members, from everybody, to try and figure out what is it that we can do, rather than have just a passive green space surrounding it. How do you create streets that connect your existing downtown and go right up into the center of it? How do you create an iconic structure? I agree, this is an iconic structure. You should be thinking 200 years as opposed to short term. Create something that does have a real impact, a visual impact, while still respecting your budgetary concerns. By putting the city hall over here and a potential police station, if you do it over there, you create a connection to the busway. If you're going to have a second level, you can have something over there, it can become a station. It can become something that allows you to truly connect with public transportation. By activating what we didn't have before, is we didn't have any relation to Washington Street. Washington Street is a fully developed street on this side, but it doesn't create anything on that side. It would be like having Lincoln Road with one side, or even in South Miami having one side of the street developed. So what we do is by activating the street, you get those photos that everybody is, what they're trying to create. You create the sidewalk cafe area, create the areas with wide sidewalks, sufficient parking. And then by having the city hall over here, this allows you to have other uses. It also allows you to create basically a pedestrian walkway through the middle, so where people can be a community gathering place, as opposed to just an open plaza. And a community gathering place can be by storefronts, by active uses, and that's kind of a basic, I think, of urbanist design, is where you want to create that type of a joinder. The streetscapes like Washington Avenue get activated, the green space is populated and activated, and by doing this in a modular design, we're being very conscious of the budgetary issues here. By just creating the modules, you can do a couple of modules. You don't have to do everything at once, and you can pick what you can do and what you can afford to do. Question is, how do we pay for it? And there are multiple ways to pay for it under different types of financing. You can do, and we've provided some summaries in here, I won't go into the great detail, but you can do simply, if the city desires not to lay out any money, I agree with Mr. Rosen, you can do a construction where we would construct it. pay the cost of it, and you would do a lease back from us if the city doesn't want to dip into its coffers and do anything. I agree, there's always a structure that's just a competitive number that any party developing it can come up with. Or you can do a purchase structure, which I think if you lay it out, even if you finance virtually all of it, if you look at the numbers, it actually comes out to be a lower cost than a potential lease structure. But again, that's to us, as far as what we think the design needs to be, is one thing. What the financing structure, we can offer both. So whatever you, in looking at it, your finance folks looking at it, come up with the most prudent number, whether you want to do a lease purchase, a lease option, a straight lease, a purchase, simple financing, because you have the ability to buy at a very low level. Mr. Kesty here has secured assisted in securing millions of dollars of grants, including for City Hall and other municipal properties. We can participate and assist in that. What we would, we also propose, we think that the size of the facility, of the current City Hall facility as designed, is too large. I think that what you have in that design is 80,000 square feet, and we think in trying to review programming and looking at what was going in there, that there are a lot more efficiencies and there are a lot of multi-use functions that can be created. If we truly look at this, if we truly put a fine pencil on it, well, you can get this down to a 60,000 square foot facility. So simply taking the short route of saying, it's done, it's designed, let's do it, I think that the savings, what we're looking at here, which comes out to about, after taking into account a minor parking subsidization of somewhere in the range of $18.5 million for the City Hall component, we think is a worthwhile exercise. We think that that by doing that, even though a design fee has been paid, the money is paid, it's spent, it's sunk, I don't think that should be something that commits you to it. If you're looking at, I don't want a crisis situation to create a necessarily a bad financial or design decision, because this is not just about building this, and we believe saving millions of dollars in terms of design, construction, and financing. It's also about the intangible of economic development in the rest of downtown Homestead, where, what happens when you activate one side of the street, you benefit the other side of the street. I don't know that we can put a number on it. We don't try and put a number on it, but we know that it's there. And I'd like to ask Robert to deal with just the timeline, because I know many of your concerns are trying to anticipate your concerns, is what would be the timing of pursuing this route versus the current route?
We could have conceptual design in about 30 days, where we would then from there, an agreement made with the city, would be able to go into construction within about 90 to 120 days from then, through a fast-tracking process of design and build as we go. It's done quite well. We'd start with the infrastructure first and foundations as we finish the MEPs and the electricals for the rest of the building. The building would be modular, so that it can expand when needed. It'd be designed to be built to be modular at any time to add on to it. I've spent quite a bit of time at the police, with the staff at the police, and worked out a design for the Flagler area right in here, and to put the police station there. It fits very well and back to back, and it gives good support for each facility. And with plenty of room to expand to double the size of the building as years go by.
I promised one other item, which was how we return it to the tax rolls. We propose to add 30,000 feet of retail by activating the street level, which we believe could add as much as $5 to $6 million to the tax roll, which would be like putting this property back on the tax rolls. That would be something that we would lease. We have experience in leasing. We would lease, operate, and manage, and provide back not only the taxes on that, it would become a property tax paying, but we would also pay the city a percentage of the revenues from the leasing of that space that we would construct at our cost, basically as a land lease back to the city. So it would return it in two ways, both the rental revenues that we show to be about somewhere between $36,000 and $56,000, plus the tax revenues that would be returned through the adding $5 to $6 million of property to the public tax rolls.
Questions from council? Yes, Ms.
I have a quick
Fairclough.
question. Mr. Silver, correct?
Yes.
You mentioned that with the current design, it's too large, and that you would scale it down to 60,000 square feet.
Yes.
Can you just speak more in specific terms as to your rationale for why it's too large? And what will you scale off? And why do you feel it should go down to 60,000 square feet?
Generically, I believe you're operating out of 18,000 feet here in this building. You're adding, we understand the functions will be added, but as I look at it, a lot of the spaces appear to be more single use. They're not as multi-use as they could be. I mean, I'm seeing even just in the last 5 years, particularly in office uses, you have a lot more shared spaces. You have a lot more smaller pod workstations. You have a lot of shared offices, depending if people have field functions and they can actually share offices. I think that a lot of that didn't get, and I don't think those things were necessarily more in the vanguard of office design, because it's essentially an office building a few years ago. I lease office space. That's primarily what I do. And I will tell you that the efficiencies of office space in the last 5 years have reduced office use by 30 to 40% overall. So without being specific, I would say that most of the offices and many of the conference rooms, I think each department having its own separate conference room as opposed to shared conference room use. I mean, through efficient scheduling, through multi-use, through conference rooms that have dividers, so when you have a meeting of 6 people, instead of using an office that takes 20, simply a divider in the middle, the cost of the divider is a lot cheaper than building 2 conference rooms. So we would get into the fine mesh of that. We don't want to redesign it for you, but I'm just telling you, for this type of office, you have, I believe the Palmetto Bay City Hall is approximately 40,000 feet. Pinecrest is 42,000 square feet. We're also looking at comparable, governmental offices, and this just is far larger than we would expect based upon the functions that are in there. Now, if you choose to bring other functions in there that may not ordinarily be in a city hall, then it may grow, but it appeared to be primarily the city administrative staff to go in there.
Well, I believe one of our concerns was the fact that a lot of our departments are kind of scattered throughout the city, and we kind of wanted to bring all of them closer together. So with your design, did you take that into consideration? Because perhaps the size that is currently in place, the 80,000 square feet, that was taken into consideration of bringing those apartments together to have a more cohesive unit within the city.
No, we're anticipating using every function that you were planning to utilize in the City Hall design of a few years ago. We're saying you put that into 60,000 square feet instead of 80,000 square feet. And I'm also recognizing, it's simply a new paradigm in terms of economics, is let's get more efficient on it. Let's have shared uses. Let's have pod working stations. I mean, there are a lot of workstations now where they bring together 4 people within one workstation that takes up half the space of some of the older designs. I mean, I think it's something worth putting, and it may not wind up being 60,000, may wind up being 65,000, may wind up being 58. I'm just using the office efficiencies that I've seen over the last 5 years that are reducing almost 30% if you apply that type of efficient use of space and shared spaces.
Yes, Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Mayor, to follow up on that question from my colleague, to staff, have we done an analysis as far as what kind of spacing we need or is anticipated, not only for this type of proposal where they're proposing 60,000, which is less than the prior proposal, but also for the prior proposal, making sure that the 80,000 is in fact sufficient for our needs based on the fact that we're combining staff, combining departments. Have we done an analysis to make sure that whatever product we finalize is going to be sufficient for our purposes?
Yes, thank you very much. The debate is at 9, so I don't want to get into a point-counterpoint. And the manager was not here when we conducted a 4-month programming exercise. Every single department was interviewed. The projections on 3 and 5 years in terms of growth or diminishing. There was already well awareness that we were past our most active construction period, so we had allowed for that. To arbitrarily say that you can do it in 6 notes instead of 10 is fine, but it's not based on serious study. I also want to say, just in closing, and I'm happy to answer as many questions as you would like, that what we have here is a choice between a merchant approach and a civic approach. part of the program that we were given by the city was that you wanted a symbol of the city, of city pride, a building that would be here for 200 years, not a shopping center. So you have a choice, and that's what's great about America. If you want any other questions about the civic solution, I'm here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
if I don't know that you necessarily answered my question, though, and that is your building that you've designed sufficient for our uses and our anticipated uses?
Okay.
And if it is, then I need that answer, but also if that one's too small for our uses, I need that as well.
The answer is absolutely yes, and the reason for that is that there was a 4-month study, and you can ask the department, some of the department heads are here. We went around and talked to each one of them, drew sketches for each room. There are standards here for private offices, for open plan, for conference rooms, departments that share conference rooms. There's a shared conference room between the mayor and the city manager. I mean, the whole thing took 4 months. But on top of that, we were here last week to see how that stood after 3 years. And with unanimity, every department said that it still met their needs now. And we have one department that is in 2 floors that may want to be all in 1 floor. But the criteria was those departments that have the most public use would be on the ground level to eliminate the need for elevators and stairs and so on. But again, there's absolutely no question that scientifically, after a 4-month study and 3 years later, this is what you need in terms of space, even if you went and just rented it, somewhere to be able to bring, like the councilwoman said, all the services that the city renders under 1 roof. Okay?
Thank you. Any further questions from council?
Just, if I could,
Sure,
sir.
please.
You said renderings in 30 days. Explain what you consider rendering.
Conceptual floor plans with programming.
I guess my question is, if it took them a year to do a building, and I'm sure we have certain things that we need to include with IT and those type of things, how can you tell me it's going to be done in 90 days?
We would sit down with staff and go through all their programs and come back with a plan in 30 days.
In 30 days, not so, I mean, you would have to, because
A conceptual
I want to
plan in
know,
30 days.
if we go that route, my fear is what happened to the city in the past. I mean, we were on the doorstep of being there in '09. And who knows, we've got another election coming up, and if this drags on for another 11 months, 12 months, as things seem to do in this world, as we sit up here, when there could be 3 new faces up here or whatever, it could all be thrown out and we're right back to ground zero again. So I would, that's what worries me, is the time frame that we may be getting into here with the conceptual drawings and making sure that we've got everything covered and stuff again. And that's one of my biggest concerns this evening.
We recognize.
Because right now, you've already told me, if everything goes exactly according to order, we're at least 5 to 6 months out before we would start anything.
If I could, without inserting myself into the debate, because I'm going to try really hard.
Did you want the floor?
Factual issue that was mentioned by both the speakers, and that is that it really isn't 30 days here, because should you choose to go with an RFP process, it'll be the same process as the bid process, which you need 90 days to open it up to everyone, to give people the amount of time.
So we're looking at 8 months.
To do the due diligence. In either case, if it's a formal bidding process, you still have 100% construction drawings, and everything in those drawings need to be costed out in order for a contractor to issue a bid. So whether it's that or an RFP, it's still going to take a period of time in order for it to be a fair, competitive process.
There's a lot on your plate tonight. You've got.
Oh, I know.
What we're here saying that the city can have an iconic building and still bring retail and vitality and active streets to downtown Civic Center. That's the contrast. And there's also the public process and the public-private process, which is quicker and more economical once you start it. I think at the end, the building will probably get a ribbon cutting about the same time either way.
And could I address Mr. Cassidy, could you come? I guess my question is, because you guys bring it up in here, the CDBG grants and other types of grants and stuff. And I don't know, I think my luck in Washington or wherever we go now is every time I go to ask for money, I haven't seen too many yeses ever since I've been sitting up here. And yeah, I mean, you know, we've got Walmart up the street here, as was just brought up, going through stuff. And for us to rely on that, I mean, it's tough for me, because every time I've ever asked for $1, whether it be from the locals or from the state or from the federal, it's always, oh, you should have been here last year, or we'll try it again next year.
We're not proposing or presenting that you should rely on any of that money. What we're saying is
But
we
it
have
appears,
the...
when you read through here, you guys are using that in numbers and stuff, I believe, unless I read it, unless I misread it. Just looking at it for the first time tonight.
Yeah, I think we have one parking subsidy in there at $1.8 million, which is very low end. The rest, I gave a list of, we presented a short list of grant opportunities, and those are categories, by the way. As a matter of fact, if you look at one of them, it says Homeland Security. Under Homeland Security, currently right now, there are at least 10 grants available that could be applied for and could be used, and I use that word very carefully, could be, for City Hall projects. Most of them having to do with emergency operations. You have Turkey Point close by. There's some protection in there for those and all. So we only offer those as opportunities, and we would be glad to work with the city, the staff, the manager, and your lobbyists to go and seek those grants. We've had success for others in the past, so we just bring that as an opportunity.
And that was one of my points. I just wanted to clear up that that's not an automatic by any means, as it's incorporated into the plan here. But I just wanted to make sure, unless you were a magician, because if you were, you weren't be let out of the building tonight.
No, and unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen in about a month from now, so everything's up in the air.
Okay.
So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes. I would basically echo somewhat what our Vice Mayor just mentioned, that I think when I looked at all this, my major concern was the financing. Though these prices, you know, are adding up to what we have for the money that we have to build this, if we use our own money. And we saw some of the analysis that you have here where we could get some grant money, and I believe that we would work hard to do that, but nonetheless, that's definitely my concern. I feel more comfortable in the sense where if kind of like what we have here with another group, where if they're going to finance it and lease it back. Are you guys proposing to the lease program as well?
We're proposing exactly the same thing at your option. So if you wanted to simply have us fund it, you lease it back at an agreed rate, or you do a combination of using your own money and a bond money at a low, you know, or borrow money at a low rate. That's really your choice. But we would offer the same option.
And a question to the manager. Have we looked at, just for sake of question, and options and on bonds, issuing bonds for this?
Well,
and I know it goes back to whether we make a decision if we're going to go here first. We know that, but these are just some generic questions that we would like to ask.
there's a variety of different ways to provide the gap funding, because assuming your project, whatever the dollar amount, let's assume it's $20 million and you have only 18. We'll need some gap funding. So what we're looking at is a variety of different ways to provide that gap funding. One, obviously, is that we're sitting on land that's very valuable, so that could be one way to meet the gap. Another way is a financing approach, but the philosophy there would be to minimize the amount of financing, because obviously your financing costs will add to the cost of the project. So again, it also depends on, that's one of the policy decisions, is you could decide that you want to keep your $18 million and borrow the money one way or another. Ultimately, whether you're leasing or you're bonding, you're still borrowing money and paying interest for it. So it's really, it's a philosophy of either pay as you go or borrowing, or a combination thereof.
Okay.
One more question, Sheriff.
But also, if I could, to clarify, we don't see any scenario that would trigger a referendum.
Through the manager, to somebody, if I remember correctly, grants have to be secured before the building is, or before the project is started or completed. Is that correct? So if we, and maybe Mr. Kesty could answer, if we were to get...
Walmart did it after that.
They haven't built yet. So if we were to start building, and we wouldn't be, if we were to start building, would we still be able to chase grants, or would those grants be locked up and closed down upon the start of the project?
There are some grants that you have to apply for before you break ground, but there are many that you can apply for while you're in the construction phase, and there are actually grants you can apply for after construction as well, for ongoing operations.
I wasn't sure how those
Right.
work.
So it varies. The bigger ones are those pre-construction. But that doesn't mean you can't apply for them, see if you get awarded with them, and then add them to your, or just subtract them from your budget, basically, if you get the grant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw? Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just to address some of the points, as far as the overall concept, I like the concept. I think it's unique. I think it does bring a space to the downtown area, and it's not just a government building, but it's something a little bit more. So I do like that. The problem I have, though, is that ultimately when you talk about this quick design process, one of the positives about this last design, or the old design, is that it's been fully vetted. It went through 2 full council administrations, public comments, public hearings, the site plans, the architectural drawings, everything went through a process, and everyone got to express their opinion, good or bad, on that. And what I'm afraid of is that if we do this fast-track methodology, is that the public won't have that input, because we maybe make the decisions, you present something to us, we approve it, and it goes forward, but we can't take the time to allow the public to do the full process like they have with the last set of plans. And so that's a concern that I have with this concept. So for me, there's a time issue there, so if you don't do the fast-track process and we go with that concept, then now we have to take the time that would necessary with the last one. So we have a 6-month to a year process to fully design it, fully get the public comment about it, get the feedback. And so that's one of the big issues I have. I think I like the concept. Again, I don't know that I'm thrilled with the other design, the old design. There's things about it that I don't know that I would have chosen to do had I started the process, 4 or 5 years ago. But ultimately, it's a shovel-ready project, and it's ready to go, and we can start it tomorrow. We can put it out to bid, whatever methodology we put it out to bid with, and get it built and get the City Hall built downtown. Because the other problem we have here, because of the time, is the health issues, because we have to leave this building, our city employees do, and we have to find temporary quarters. Every month that goes by, every year that goes by that we're paying for that extra temporary quarters is money, again, that's out of our pocket that we don't necessarily maybe need to pay. And so for me, if this was 5 or 6 years ago, I would be, probably saying, let's see what you have to offer. Let's put this thing out to RFP, and let's get some competition. But because we're already so far down the line, we have so much money invested, and we have the circumstances that we have, I personally am going to support going with the old plans, because I think that's maybe not the best plans, but I think it's the best given all the circumstances and facts that we have. So I just want to go ahead and put that out there on for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Shelley. Mrs. Fairclough.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman Shelley. I think the design is beautiful. I like the fact that you have chosen to interact with the downtown to ensure that there is a connection between the downtown and the city. But in looking at your construction costs, and please, I'm not in the building business, so you're going to have to help me. We spent $1 million on the current design that we have, and looking here, the carrying cost, architectural, engineering design is $4 million. So is this a $1 million design versus a $4 million design?
I think you have to look at the overall cost of the building and compare them. When you talk about, what we're talking about is generally soft costs, which are architectural, engineering, and all the other components of building any project. And it's basically a number that is used as more of a rule of thumb. It might be a 20 to 30% number, so it's not based upon a finite budget, because you have to determine the final programming. The only thing I would say about the time element is, if this is a building for 200 years and you like the design, then you may want to take some time to make sure that it's done in a way that is going to be for generations. I understand the urgency, but if this is good planning, then we should go with good planning.
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado.
you know, I do agree in a sense where we do have this plan that's up and ready to go. I like that. But I also would like to, I don't know if it's, you know, getting some time up to the council meeting. I do want some community feedback on the process that we're having right now, at least. At least let's look at this council, you know, I don't know if we'd set it up for this council meeting. Let people come up here and speak their mind of what's happening as well. So I am in favor of moving forward. Again, I like the design that we have, but at the same time, I do like some of the concepts that we have here because one of the thoughts was, you know, the police station. You know, this and the design that's brought by that we currently have, was the police station considered in there at all?
The parking was considered. I don't know what they can buy it for, but it's no less than $13,000 to $15,000 per car. And we had anticipated that if there was a need for additional parking, it would be east of the busway into what is commonly known in town as the arsenic lot. Which is an interesting name. But anyway, which would not be jammed against the building. You know, I want to be as polite as I can, but as frank as I can. I can tell you, you can do all kinds of things. We did the programming for the police station. The chief is here. He can tell you. And we interviewed everyone, and we have a program ready for a different site, which is what we were instructed to do. So to say that I can take a site and put all these different uses on it without showing us any hard line drawings, I think it's a little bit of a risk. Just the permitting on this building took a couple of months, and that's with your own department overseeing it. And, you know, it's a much larger project. It's a much denser project. It has more speculative elements to it. This is a civic project. I mean, I can't tell you enough. You know, it does provide an arcade on the other side of Washington Avenue to strengthen that. It does connect the project with Chrome Avenue through 2nd Street. But, you know, we went through this public process, you know, not 3 years ago. 3 years ago is when the project was shelved. We went through this process. We were originally retained in 2004. Things in this city are not, you know, jammed through. These are very thoughtful processes, and like the mayor said, this has been through, or the vice mayor, 2 different councils. So
yeah, it's falling on our laps now, so, you know, we're having to make that decision as hard as it is. I mean, obviously, we've gone far, and, okay, Rob, I'll hold off my questions.
Sure, Mr. Burch. Just one quick question, because I've heard that we're at an all-time low. When you're doing projects, do you see that there's a difference in what the cost is nowadays compared to 3, 4, 5 years ago when they're being bid into you?
what we had way back when this was bid was a piñata in town, okay? Now, people already saw that that was coming to an end, and that's why we had the advantage of 26 different bids on a $20 million project. And the concern at that time was that the city had the money. And as you know, it wasn't a question of the city having the money, it was a question of timing, and it would have been political suicide to build a city hall when the world was crashing down.
Thank you.
But to answer your question on where we are now, we are beginning to see climbing market. Now, we don't have 15, 20 cranes out on the boulevard anymore. We have 2 museums coming out of the ground. We have, again, a resurgence of apartments, not condos. You read the story, whether you believe what's in the Herald or not, on coastal construction, which was one of the bidders, coming back. So all we're saying is that we believe that this is the right time. If I were to do it, very frankly, and I spoke to the city manager about this, I would go and take that list of 26 people, and I would start with the lowest bidder and start calling in to see if they would honor that price. The bids were only good for a year, but hey, give them the chance. Then if not, you go back and put it out on the street. But if you put it out on the street without acknowledging the effort, it costs money
Sure.
A lot of money to bid a project. It costs architects just to make a presentation, but these people have to go out and put together all these bids from all these subs. They have to go out and make sure that they have the bonding capability and so on. That's what I would do. But what it is, it's a shovel-ready project. And frankly, incomparable with this other project. Not to diminish the other project, but it's different. It's like apples and pears. This is a civic pride, 100-year building, LEED silver, architecturally precast concrete. Hardened core. It's not a commercial project. This is merchant versus civic. It's a very simple choice. And then how you finance it, like the manager said, that's up to you. You can go out for bonds, you can get lease back, you can buy it like you buy a car.
And just if I could, with Mr. Maldonado, I remember sitting back here in 2004, and we had meeting after meeting after meeting. Mr. Barnes even attended some of them, I believe, and as did a lot of the other faces that I see here tonight. So, I mean, this thing has been vetted through the community time and time again. And, I see former Vice Mayor Steve Losner back there, who was tasked with this at one point, and he could attest to you how many meetings and hours were spent by staff, community leaders, and council. I mean, they sat here hours after hours talking about it, arguing about it, or whatever they had in the here and private meetings. So I mean, it's been vetted, and I'm with you. I'm ready to start. Whether it's yesterday, with whether it's a public partnership or a public project that we continue on, that's for us to determine. But I'm ready to start, and I'll put it out there. I'm ready to go with the shovel-ready project tonight and move forward with that. Now, which way we take that is to be determined, but that's the way that, and I'll put that out there to maybe start the conversation where we need to get going.
Thank you. I think I've held my comments to the end for a reason, and I think you've made some good points to the architect, some excellent, and I think 2008, 2009, forget about political suicide, just wrong. Wrong. And a lot of people actually gave me a hard time for pushing it and leading the parade, if you will, not to spend that money for the last 3 years. But I think we've done the right thing. We've been fiduciary responsible to our taxpayers. I think it is right time. I don't think this is the right meeting for it. I think you need to have it at a regular council meeting. You don't have special calls. You had a special call because we have an emergency on a building that has some health problems. So you have a special call for that. And you make a decision on that. And I wasn't here at that meeting. They made a decision. And I'm relying 100% on you, Mr. Manager. 100% on your data and your information that you brought forward last week. So hopefully this data is 100%, and that we do need to immediately get out of this building. It is a health hazard, a health danger, because we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars relocating. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. As far as the City Hall project goes, Robert, I'm sorry, but I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I think that they've worked hard and long. I would take those 26 contractors and open it up to additional contractors along with the 26, because now you're going to really get your bang for your buck. Because it probably cost some of those over hundreds of thousands of dollars to bid this job.
That's what I'm saying.
To bid it properly.
The thing is important, and again, I don't mean to preach to the choir, but how do they know that this time you mean it? You see? This is very
well, they're
important.
going to move quick because there's an election coming up in November 13th, right?
But you follow what I'm saying? I mean, they were there, they put out their money, 26 people stepped up to the plate. If you put the project out again, then who knows?
Then nobody predicted in 09, in 08, 09 it was going to fall that
They would
fast.
understand.
Think about it.
Yeah.
At that time, they had just laid off 28 people from City Hall.
Sure.
So you're going to lay off 28 people and build a $25 million City Hall? The two don't add up.
I agree.
So with that said, my proposal, and I think Mr. Maldonado was saying the opposite of what Mr. Burgess said, and that was, let's let the public hear it again. If it's 30 days, okay, fine, one council meeting. But the public needs to know we're back on track. The majority of us up here want to build it. Here's what it's going to be. it's going out for bid, and we move forward. And did I hear you wrong?
That's exactly it. And actually, this council meeting wouldn't be 30 days, so I mean, just let, if we have the council meeting, which is what, a couple weeks, 2 weeks?
We can have a town meeting, council.
You know, so it gives the community a chance to hear what's going on, and if they want to say any final words, regardless, hey, there's new people that moved in, maybe they want to put their 2 cents, but I want to give them a chance to do it. I think we owe it to the community. I understand it went through a lot of times, you know, but still, I just feel that I would like to see that happen. That's all I'm asking. Shovel-ready project, you know, I think that's been said time and time again, you know, with this current administration, the presidential administration, you know, they were putting money on shovel-ready projects.
Yeah.
So we know that there's money out there, we know that there's financing out there, so I would agree with that, the shovel-ready project, but at least, you know, with some conversation. The one last part is that, you know, before we, you know, as we're going to make the decision, look at, you know, are we going to put a parking garage, you know, or we're going to put a police station. Those are things that we had discussions of, and this is the time to discuss it. So I understand that we have a shovel-ready project, I understand what's before us, but what about, while we're here now, can we look at, because we're having let's say we went for a bond, you know, the interest on that is so low, I mean, it's money almost given away, that we could get some of these other things done as well that need to be done. So just for consideration.
I just want to say that we did program that facility, and it doesn't fit on the site. But the parking garage does on the arsenic lot, if you will, just for clarification. Appropriate for it.
I think the architect you make a great point, and that is, you know, you move forward with what we have at hand. What is truly shovel-ready? Not the police department, the city hall. Move forward with it in the next 2 meetings, make some decisions, get some public comment on it, maybe by the council meeting, ratify it, move forward, figure out what we're going to do. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I have no issues. I mean, I guess my question is this, is that, from my understanding, no official action was ever taken to stop this project, to cancel this project, to vote not to build City Hall. So ultimately, there really is no need to have a vote, an official motion and vote, to go forward with something that's already been approved and is already sitting there. We just need to make sure that staff has our direction to follow through with that. You know, I agree with that the next council meeting was when we should discuss maybe the idea of the bids, because I need more information. I need to know what are these options, because I know one group is proposing this concept of a lease purchase. Does that mean that it's going to cost us, you know, will it cost us more over the long term? Is it worth letting, you know, the time value of money, is it worth letting someone else float it while we keep the money in the bank, or ultimately is it going to cost twice as much as the lot? So there's a lot of things here I need to know about, I need the facts and figures on. So I have no issues as far as determining the bid process and what we're going to do at the next council meeting, because that gives staff time to put together more information for me. But I don't know that we need to delay, say, a vote on going forward, because I don't think that there's a vote that needs to be taken. Because, you know.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Councilman, not Councilwoman.
First of all, I apologize. I had a little reaction to some medicine that I had taken earlier for sinuses, so I apologize. Believe me, it's the first time in 12 years, but can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Because I had a little bit of a time hearing some of the meeting, but I just wanted to put my thoughts out there on the record. For those of you who weren't involved in this long process from years past of the planning of the architectural drawings, there were so many meetings with the architect, with the department heads. I think it was Councilman Shelley that said that, you know, that we had this project was totally vetted. I mean, we really made sure that everyone was heard, that all things possible could be incorporated into the drawings of this magnificent building. Now, as time goes on, there's always some changes that are going to be made, but a couple of things that I wanted to bring up, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Attorney or Mr. Manager. If we bond this out, then as far as I know, then we would have to go out on a referendum and put it on a ballot. Is that not correct? Because this is taxpayers' money.
No, that's not correct. Depending upon the source of the funds that you pledge to repay the debt, if you use ad valorem taxes to repay the debt, then you would have to go out for a referendum. But if you use other sources of revenues, like we do for water and sewer, we do for electric, we did for the racetrack, those things don't require a referendum. So if you pledge non-ad valorem revenues, then you would not have to go out for a referendum.
So you're saying we would have to go into the enterprise fund and different things like that if we didn't want to go ahead and use the money that's already been set aside for this project, then we would have to go out for a referendum. Is that not correct?
If you're going to use just ad valorem tax money,
She's referring to the money from the sale of the park and complex.
right, I understand. For that, obviously, for that money, you wouldn't need a referendum. If you're going to borrow money, if you're going to use ad valorem revenues to repay those bonds, you would have to go for a referendum.
That answered her question. She was asking the funds that would have been set aside.
So you would not need a referendum for those funds.
We have other uses for those other monies, the enterprise fund and different things like that. So it's just my feeling, it's my opinion only, but because of that, I would like to go ahead and use the money that we have set aside for the building of the City Hall. I think that, as I said before, that it was totally vetted. I've heard, I don't know who said it, but I heard several people say they're not particularly fond of some of the things in the building, but I mean, if you look at it overall, it's wonderful. The thing that I was most concerned about, and I made my phone calls, I asked my questions, and that was having customer service on 2 different floors, and I'm hoping that one of those spaces will be utilized for something else. So that was my only concern, and I didn't remember that from before. I said in my original, in the meeting that we had last week, that ultimately across the nation, when new government buildings are built, they oftentimes go into blighted areas. And no one can deny that the downtown area is a blighted area. Mr. Barnes, I met with you, it was probably 6 months ago or more, and I think your plan is wonderful. But right now, I think that we need to just move forward with what we already have, and what we've already paid for, what the public they've already adopted this. And I think with doing that we will see a complete revitalization of downtown. I think retailers will come, restaurants will come. This will change the entire community. And as I was telling the manager a week or so ago, I remember growing up as a little girl, and we used to call Washington Avenue the Boulevard because we had places to eat. There were clothing stores, stationery stores, just a photography studio. At one time there was a cafeteria. So I think that everything is going to be different. I truly believe things will be different. However, when we do, or if you do decide to do this, council, as my colleagues, if it's a majority vote, I do believe that the old bidder should be called. However, I do think it should go out to everyone for a bid, and there'll be a time frame, and if they can meet that time frame, so be it. If they can't meet that time frame, then we just go on. I personally feel, and I said it before, that when we bid it out before, we run the height of the market. I think that our bid is going to come in lower. One thing that I don't know if it was mentioned tonight or not, but we went back to the council after the plans were already approved, and this was back, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was back in 2008 or 2007, 2008, and money was spent to have a design company come in and design the inside with furniture swatches, material, paint. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
I believe it was $50,000. Is the architect there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, there was a full interior design presentation, and there is a bid for that as well.
Oh, so that's already been done as well.
That's correct.
And to me, that's very important. If we do move forward with this, I do think we should have a construction manager, an on-site project manager per se, to make sure that everything is being done in a timely manner. And, all I can say is that this is shovel-ready. This is ready to go. And I don't think any tweaks or anything is going to cause a delay, correct?
That's correct.
So that would be my feeling. As far as the special call meetings go, they've been in existence for years and years and years. I know that this is a really big project and a lot of discussion needs to be, and you've had a lot of discussion tonight. But I'm telling you, we never ever knew how badly we need a new city hall until Mr. Gresses stepped up to the plate and did the environmental study. And keep in mind that time is of the essence for me, because wherever we go, and we need to go soon, we're going to be paying money out. Every month we're going to have to pay a payment. So time is of the essence for me to move us into a new city hall. So thank you, Mayor. That's all I have to say at this point.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the consensus is here on the table, and I think that we all get a little bit what we want moving forward in the next 30 to 60 to 90 days. People can call as these meetings progress. The RFP, are we all in favor of putting the RFP back out to the original contractors along with additional open to the public? Is that pretty much the consensus here tonight?
With both financial concepts?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes,
Just
sir.
to clarify, because again, there were three choices. One is invitation to bid, which gets you the lowest price. A construction manager risk gets you the lowest price and a guaranteed maximum price. And then an RFP basically says you pick whoever you want on the list, depending on what they present.
I like that.
So those
I like that. I think it's the majority. I think the RFP is the way to go. With the, we can start the ASAP?
It'll be the same thing. We'll have to draft the RFP and then bring it to market.
Okay. Who's in favor of the RFP?
Another question?
Yeah, I'm Chair.
Is that going to hold up the process? I think somebody said 90, Jerry, I think you said 90 days. Could that still be in that time frame of 90 days opening it up?
Sure.
Ms. Wallman, the original solicitation was an RFP, and initially it was for 60 days. There were so many addendums, questions from the construction companies or the vendors, that actually we had to extend it an additional 30 days to give them ample time to put their projects and plans together.
Which made it a total of 90 days, correct?
Correct.
I think that works.
But Mayor, may I just say, now that we know that the questions that were asked from before, can't you put together a slate of answers to common questions that come about, so that that's going to, people will know the answers before I have to call you and ask you?
Well, I think that was the intention the first time, was to do it in 60 days. It was everybody's intention. But then there were so many questions that it went to 90. We can do the same thing. We can say 60. We want 60, and then it comes back to us and we say, look, you're right, there's just too many things. It was just obvious that we didn't have the questions answered. But I think we'll do it in 60. I think it'll work. What do you think, Mr. Architect?
Well, the question that I have is, there's a bifurcated road here. One thing is to get the price to build a building, and the other thing is to get the price to finance the building. Now, if what you're seeking is just the price to build a building, that's what happened last time, and I think 60 days is fine. But I'm not clear. I don't know if the
You're
manager...
thinking that when we mix the financing package with the building package, you're thinking that's going to take an additional time?
I don't know. I mean, but yet, are you listening to different schemes, different financing schemes, other than the bonds, right? I mean, you're asking the bidders to to give you a price for the building and a financing package, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Otherwise, we're cutting out what we just heard tonight.
Are you interested in, and maybe some of the builders are not interested in financing.
That'll cut them out.
I'm sorry, you're interested in eliminating those people?
I would think
Or are you
we're looking
interested
for
in
the
getting
best
away
possible
from
deal.
those people?
But, Mr. Mayor, just,
Yes,
because now I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
My understanding, and actually I didn't have an understanding, so I was going to ask questions anyways, but, so we were going to put out two options, right? We're going to put out all the items to bid, and an individual contractor can come in and say bid for plumbing, bid for the whatever it might be.
One thing, the difference between RFP and bid is bid confines you to lowest price. So you make a decision to say, we want to have all the contractors look at every last thing in this plan and give us prices, and whoever has the lowest price wins. As long as they've been pre-qualified and we agree everybody on the list is perfectly capable of building the project. So lowest price is always a formal bid, invitation to bid. An RFP process, an RFP process gives you broader latitude in that you don't necessarily have to pick the lowest bidder, but it also gives you the ability in the RFP to say, column one would be what's your price. Column B is if you have a proposal to finance this, then we'd be interested in seeing that. And so you can add columns in there so that you can view each of the proposals in their entirety, and then whatever criteria you use to determine what is the best proposal, that's ultimately what you pick. So some communities pick the invitation to bid because the perception is you're going with the lowest price, you get the best value for your dollar. Some communities feel that the quality of the contractor, the elements within the project are more than just price-based. So that's really the difference between the two concepts. There's one variation on the invitation to bid, and that is, which is still, it's a lowest price concept, but it also is called guaranteed maximum price, where you say to the contractors, give us your lowest price, but whatever that price is, we want to guarantee that's it. Whatever we decide on, you're going to build it, whether you find rock under the ground, whether there's contamination, you're going to absorb all those costs so that you know whatever that price is, that's all you're going to pay.
Okay, and I guess my biggest question then is what we are proposing tonight gives us maximum flexibility to choose any one of those three options because they're all out there at the same time. And so what I want to make sure is I'm not committing to a finance plan tonight, and I'm not committing to a maximum price plan tonight, because maybe those don't yield the best things for our project.
The RFP will include various options for the proposers to include. What's your lowest price? What's your lowest guaranteed maximum price? And do you have some sort of a financing package that you'd like us to think about and consider? And so then from there, you'll have this array of options, and then you can decide. It also helps you because there's always the debate about is it better to buy a car or to lease a car? And there's plenty of people that lease them and plenty of people that buy them. When you look at the end of the term, you see that it costs you more to lease, but you put less money up front. So it really depends on what your objectives are. If you want this to be the lowest price, the RFP process will give you that one column where you can pick the lowest price. If you're interested in a financing package, you'll see which proposers offer you financing packages and which ones are the best. And or with the RFP process, you'll say, well, this one may be more expensive and their financing may be more expensive, but we like the quality of the contract and that's what we want.
But I guess my last follow-up question to this is that the RFP, though, is essentially one entity is providing all these options. So you're not going to get the individual plumbers, the individual electricians coming in and giving a price. So it's going to have to be orchestrated by a central figure bringing these to the table.
You'll have an applicant, a proposer, who says, this is what, I saw what you want me to build, and this is what I'm offering. And they can pick whatever they like within the cut. They can give you an offer just for a lowest price and not put in the column guaranteed maximum price if they choose. And or they can offer a financing package if they choose, but their responsibility would to build you what you want, and that's what the RFP will say. And they'll say, your RFP is going to say, this is your 100% construction documents,
right.
This is what we want, and now fill in the columns.
But it's by general contractor versus, say, by individual smaller contract subs underneath each one.
It wouldn't be small little pieces, it's the whole package.
Right, so as long as you tell me that that will generate the lowest price, or has the potential to generate the lowest price, and it's good for the city, then I'll go for the RFP, because the most flexibility is good, but I also don't want to see a situation where we have, very few general contractors come in there and bid the whole thing, because they don't want that. They don't want to do that big of a package. They only want to do one part and one piece, and then we have actually less competition, and as a result, we end up having to say, we don't like any of those options that just came to us after 60 days, and we do this thing individually thereafter, and it ends up taking longer. So that's what I'm concerned about. And if you say that that's not a concern and it shouldn't be an issue, then I'll go with this.
That won't be a concern. The only concern we have as staff is that the 90-day period is more realistic in that what you have here is extensive documents, and there is a much greater likelihood that you'll have more proposers and you'll have real proposals if you give people the opportunity to go through and do their due diligence, and 90 days will give us more flexibility.
Okay.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Mr. Burgess, go ahead.
Go ahead, I forgot what. He forgot his info. Go ahead, Mr. Walker. Got me going in circles here tonight. It was something from the gentleman. All right, Ms. Wallman, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Me? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I'm a little confused because, sorry, that was my dog. I'm a little confused because I can just tell you from experience in the city, this is my hope and dream, is that we have a contractor who comes in, lists all his bids as to how much it's going to cost to do air conditioning, how much it's going to cost to do plumbing, how much it's going to cost to do whatever. Because you start getting into having to micromanage, okay, now all of a sudden our construction manager has to manage the plumbing. Now they have to manage this over here. I'm interested in somebody coming in, and on a job like this, it has to be a very qualified company to do that. And also, I just want to put on the record that sometimes the lowest bid isn't always the best bid.
Thank you.
Because I'm a stickler for change orders, and it's so often, somebody just comes in and bids low, and all of a sudden, they come in and say, oh, sorry, can't do that. We found this or this and this, and they want, a $50,000, $60,000 change order. Of course, I understand when some incidents do happen that you do have some small change orders. But I just want to go into this knowing that we're going to get the best bang for our buck. Now, maybe I misunderstood I couldn't quite hear some of the answers from Mr. Gressis when Mr. Shelley was speaking. But, will that give us that with an RFP, or is that just going to give us the option with an RFP?
The RFP process will give all the proposers an opportunity to present you with what they're willing to propose. Some will say, here's my price to build this project, and if there's change orders, there's change orders. That'll be column one. Column two is, here's what I'm willing to build, and I'm willing to guarantee a maximum price. If there's change orders, because of whatever reason, I'm going to eat those costs. And then there'll be a third column, which may apply to any of those others that applied in those two columns. But the third column, which would be, I have here an idea for financing that I'd like you to consider, and so here's column 3. And so some proposers may decide, I'm not going to give you a straight construction price or a guaranteed maximum price. I'm just going to say, I want to do a lease purchase agreement with you, and here's what it's going to cost. Annually, total amount of payments, sort of like you went into the car dealership and you say, I'd like to lease a car, in which case the purchase price may not be as important to you as how much does it cost per month for your lease payment. So this RFP process will have these various columns, so that each of these proposers will be able to give you what they are willing to propose, and then you can pick whatever you want.
Okay, so that's if we vote tonight for an RFP, that will give us all of those things.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one quick comment. Sure. The gentleman spoke earlier, were we sincere? And I think you can see tonight, I mean, we voted 6-0 last week move over there. I think we've narrowed it down tonight and showed our sincerity, so when people call, I hope that you'll express that we are sincere and ready to move forward with this project.
I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we have on the table now an RFP process to go out and to be bid out, hopefully be back in 60 days, right? Or 30? 60? 60 days?
We'll shoot for 60 days.
Shoot for 60. It's Ms. Wallman thinks we can do it in 60, and which will involve not only the entire cost of the building, but possibly some creative financing along with it. So the best scenario we could get would be a top-notch construction company that gives us a really good price and also finances it for us too. So with that said,
Yes.
we need additional.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Nays? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
So there's no public comment on what you all discussed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm extremely disappointed. You know, you just let a lot of people get their head under the tent to open up this, and you've discounted the public's previous 4 or 5 years' worth of work involved in this building. And now, we're in the last 2 minutes of a football game. And you're going to open this up to all kinds of people. And I understand that you all have a moment of indecision, and you're not ready to really go and do what the previous administrations have done over the last 6 years. And that means I'm disappointed. I didn't expect this. You had a special call. I thought we were just going to really hear what Mr. Rosen had to say, but he won't give up his secrets. But now we know Mr. Barnes' secret. And now we're going to invite the rest of the world to come in and work on this project. And pretty much, like I said.
Mr. Tebow, I think you misunderstood what's happened. We did hear.
No, I don't misunderstand. You're going to put an RFP out for...
No, not for the project. We have chosen those plans. The old plans that went through 6 years of 2 administrations and 6 years of planning, we have agreed that those are the plans we are using. What we put out to bid for RFP was actually the implementation of that plan.
Well, it didn't come out that very clear.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure I clarify, because I think you misunderstood.
It didn't come out very clear. I don't think the people here really understood it, because I didn't understand it.
No, we did. We took action, and we went with that plan, and now we are trying to find people who...
Okay, so now we're going to build the aircraft carrier the way it was designed.
Yeah, that is correct.
That's what I really like to hear. Thank you.
One thing, and Bill, Mr. Tebow,
The one thing about it is that we may end up with bids lower than we had 5, 6, 7 years ago also. You never know. We're flipping the coin, but you never know.
Mr. Von Lauer.
Mr. Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen, I am Joe Von Lauer, 2705 Augusta Drive, Homestead. I represent 150 members of Committee for a Better Homestead. Well, actually, I thought all of this went pretty well. And the main thing that I would like everyone to remember, and to which Councilperson Fairclough McCormick spoke of last week, and that is getting those employees out of this building as quickly as possible. That's our main mission. And I hope that that is something which is on the agenda right now, and we're not going to wait until we make all of these other decisions to move these people out of here, right?
No, the plan and the direction from the council was to begin the process of negotiating a lease, and that's what we've been doing.
That was last week.
So our hope is, although ambitious, we're hoping to have a lease for the council's consideration at the next COW. I can't promise that until we see how we're doing with our negotiations. I should have a better idea within the next day or two.
Great, great.
Thank you.
Another thing I wanted to point out was we are sitting on an extremely valuable piece of property here, so when it comes to financing, it's not like we don't have any collateral.
Okay.
And then finally, these folks who spoke here tonight, Mr. Rosen and Mr. Barnes and the gentleman representing the so-called aircraft carrier, are all experts, and we should be listening to all of these persons as we go along. Mr. Rosen is a financier extraordinaire, and Mr. Barnes is an architect who keeps himself up on all of the very latest developments. So we have a lot of expertise here in this room, and not just those folks, but the people in the audience and on the council as well. So we want to use all of those folks. I don't mean use, I mean take advantage of their expertise. And Councilman Elvis referred to keeping the public aware. And I like that. Obviously, I like that. That's my job. And so I hope that everything that we do here will be shared with the public one way or the other. And finally, we don't want to forget that we're going to be working on the interchange here, because this is where we're going to generate some revenue for all of these kinds of activities.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
One last comment, if I
Yes,
could,
sir.
Mayor. I think that we as a whole body up here need to be thinking about what we want to do with this acreage that we sit on now. And whether that's at some near meeting, we ask the manager to come back with information for us, or we put it out for like an RFP, but not really an RFP, and have people come to us with their ideas. I think that's something that at some point we need to start thinking about and addressing down the road. So I just wanted to put that out so that people are thinking about what they want to do here. I mean, we've got a public library that sits on the property that we're going to need to make sure that we take care of somehow, and things like that. So just as we move forward, we got things that we get, you know, that we need to make sure we take care of also.
Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
Mr. Muller.
to the manager, would we need, so when do you need that direction for what Councilman Burgess had just spoken about? I think that's obviously goes hand in hand with what we're trying to do, and moving forward, so.
Preferably, I'd like to at least get the lease for the swing space and the moving plan out of the way, because that's the most important thing, and it's occupying a tremendous amount of time. And then, of course, this process is going to require a tremendous amount of attention for us to do it right. And so that would, hopefully, that would be the third piece, but I'm not really sure how much time yet I need.
I'm going to put it in the pipe as soon as possible.
Go ahead. And it may even come back to us in the entire bid process that we're going through now. It may come back to be a total combination, so you never know. Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.